Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered why you keep making excuses for the way someone treats you? Deep down, you know something isn't right. But you tell yourself it's okay. You say things like, "That's just how they are," or "They don't mean any harm." You bite your tongue, silence your pain, and carry the weight of someone else's behavior just to keep the peace. But ask yourself, when did peace start feeling like quiet suffering? We grow up being told to respect, forgive, and stay loyal, especially to family. But what no one tells you is that loyalty without boundaries is self-betrayal. That forgiveness without change is just permission for more pain. And that respect for others means nothing if you don't first respect yourself. This is where most people get stuck. They confuse love with endurance and patience with silence. But love isn't supposed to hurt. And real love, whether it comes from a friend, a partner, or family, doesn't demand that you lose pieces of yourself to keep it. Right now, you might be tolerating things that are slowly destroying your self-worth. You might be letting someone's words echo in your mind, shaping how you see yourself. You might be allowing behaviors that leave you drained, anxious, and doubting your own value. And maybe you've convinced yourself that this is just part of life, that being strong means putting up with it. But strength isn't measured by how much pain you can take. Strength is measured by how firmly you can say, "Enough. You're not here by accident. You're listening because part of you is ready for a shift. You're tired of shrinking to make others comfortable. You're tired of giving more than you receive. And most of all, you're tired of feeling like your needs don't matter." The truth is, you're allowed to draw a line. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect your peace, even if it makes others uncomfortable. That's not selfish. That's survival. As we go deeper into this message, you'll discover 5 behaviors you should never tolerate from anyone, no matter who they are, not even the people closest to you. Because the people who love you should help you grow, not keep you small. They should lift you up, not tear you down. You deserve relationships that feel safe, honest, and empowering. And sometimes the first step toward those relationships is letting go of the ones that hurt. Stay with this message, not because you owe it to me, but because you owe it to yourself. You owe it to the version of you who stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, who accepted less when you deserved more, who smiled through pain just to make others happy. That version of you is still inside, waiting to be heard, waiting to be free. And today, you start listening. Today, you start choosing you. There is a kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't shout. It doesn't scream. It whispers quietly in the back of your mind, telling you that something feels wrong, that something feels off. You try to explain it, but the words never quite come out right. Because how do you describe the weight of being constantly criticized, belittled, or dismissed by someone who's supposed to care? It's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. A comment here, a look there. But over time, it chips away at your confidence like water wearing down stone. Disrespect is not just what someone says to your face. It's how they speak about you when you're not around. It's how they ignore your feelings, your needs, your boundaries. And if you've been living with it long enough, you might have started to believe it's normal. You may have trained yourself to lower your expectations, to justify the way you're treated, to accept that love must come with pain. But here's the truth. Love that requires you to break yourself isn't love. It's control. It's fear. It's survival masquerading as connection. You are not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You are not here to be the one who always compromises, always gives in, always swallows your truth to keep someone else comfortable. You are here to stand tall in your worth, to honor the fire in your soul that says, I deserve more. The people who truly care about you will never make you feel small to feel big. They will never use guilt to manipulate you, never use silence to punish you, never use love as a weapon. Every time you tolerate disrespect, even in small doses, you send a message to yourself that your feelings don't matter. And over time, your inner voice starts to reflect that. You begin to doubt your instincts. You question your worth. You silence your truth. But you were not born to be silent. You were not made to fit into someone else's broken version of love. You were made to stand, to speak, to rise. There is power in removing yourself from what doesn't serve you. There is power in saying, I will not accept this. Even if it's your oldest friend, even if it's your parent, even if it's your partner. Love cannot be an excuse for pain. Family cannot be an excuse for harm. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can love someone and still protect your peace. Right now, you have a choice. You can continue shrinking, or you can begin growing. You can keep waiting for them to change, or you can change the way you respond. And every time you choose yourself, you heal a part of you that once believed you didn't matter. But you do. You always have. And the moment you stop tolerating disrespect is the moment you start reclaiming your power, fully, unapologetically, and without fear. Sometimes the people closest to you will cross boundaries so often that you forget those boundaries were ever there. You start letting things slide. You convince yourself it's not a big deal. You swallow the discomfort. You stay quiet, not because you agree, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you speak, afraid of losing the relationship, afraid of being called difficult, sensitive, dramatic. But the truth is, the more you allow your boundaries to be ignored, the more invisible you become. You fade in your own life until you're no longer living for yourself. You're just surviving for the comfort of others. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you accept, and what you stay silent about. And if someone keeps overstepping your limits, it's not because you're too sensitive. It's because they've learned that your limits are flexible, that your no doesn't really mean no, that your silence is permission. But you were not put on this earth to be easy to manage. You were not born to please everyone at the cost of your own well-being. Your peace is sacred. Your mental space is not a playground for someone else's chaos. If someone keeps disrespecting your time, your energy, your emotions, you owe it to yourself to draw a line and hold it. A boundary is not a wall. It's a gate. It doesn't block out love. It protects it. It lets in what nourishes you and keeps out what poisons you. Real love respects your no. Real connection honors your limits. And if someone truly values you, they will adjust, not resist. They will listen, not dismiss. The moment someone shows you that your boundaries don't matter to them is the moment you must decide that your self-worth matters more. It's not your job to fix people who keep breaking you. It's not your duty to educate those who refuse to see the damage they cause. It's not your responsibility to carry the weight of someone else's emotional immaturity. You are allowed to walk away from what drains you. You are allowed to say, this doesn't feel right. You are allowed to choose your well-being even if it disappoints someone else. This is developed midlife, especially if it disappoints someone who never once considered how their behavior impacts you. Boundaries are an act of love. Love for yourself. They are not cruelty. They are not betrayal. They are not selfish. And if someone tries to make you feel guilty for protecting your peace, that guilt is a trap, a tool of control. Don't fall into it. Guilt is not a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that you're growing. This is your moment to reclaim space in your own life. To no longer shrink for comfort. To no longer bend until you break. This is your invitation to honor your boundaries, not just with strangers, not just with friends, but even with the people you love most. Because love without respect is not love. And your life is too precious to spend it being tolerated instead of treasured. It's not just what people do to you that breaks you down. It's what they make you do to yourself. When someone constantly doubts your choices, mocks your passions, or talks you out of your goals, they plant seeds of uncertainty in your mind. Slowly, you begin to hesitate. You second guess your ideas. You shrink your dreams to fit their comfort zone. And soon, you're living a life that isn't yours. A life shaped by fear, by pressure, by the weight of someone else's opinions. That kind of influence is poison to your potential. And if you don't recognize it, you'll spend your life apologizing for wanting more. You don't need permission to dream. You don't need approval to grow. You don't need to explain why you want to change your life, shift your mindset, or aim higher. The people who try to keep you small aren't protecting you. They're protecting their control over you. And sometimes the hardest part is realizing that this resistance can come from people you love. People you trust. People who should be lifting you, not holding you down. But no matter who it is, the message is the same. Your voice matters. Your dreams matter. And no one has the right to take them from you. When you let someone constantly talk you out of your growth, you hand them the pen to your story. You give away your power to people who never earned it. And the danger isn't always in the loud criticism. It's in the quiet doubt they feed into your heart. That voice that says, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should just stay where I am. That voice is not yours. It was planted there. And you have the power to rip it out, root and all. It takes strength to protect your vision. It takes courage to break free from the grip of those who never believed in it. But every time you choose your path over their pressure, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You rise a little taller. You breathe a little deeper. You become more of who you were meant to be. You are not too ambitious. You are not too much. You are not unrealistic. You are just not meant to live in the box someone else built for you. Let them call you selfish. Let them say, you've changed. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to evolve. And if your growth makes someone uncomfortable, that is their battle, not yours. This is your life, your journey, your future. Do not let anyone shame you into playing small. You were not born to be silent, obedient, or easily controlled. You were born to be powerful, to be free, to become everything they told you is impossible. And you will. Not because they said you could, but because you decided you will, no matter what. When someone constantly plays the victim, even when they're the one causing harm, it creates a toxic cycle that traps you in guilt. They twist every conversation until you're the one apologizing. You question your reactions, your intentions, even your memory. You start feeling responsible for their emotions, their mistakes, their unhappiness. And slowly, without realizing it, you become their emotional caretaker. You begin to carry their pain like it's your burden to heal. But no matter how much you sacrifice, it's never enough, because the victim mindset doesn't want resolution. It feeds on control through pity, silence, and emotional confusion. You are not here to absorb someone else's consequences. You are not a punching bag for misdirected anger. You are not a therapist for someone who refuses to grow. The moment someone weaponizes their suffering to control your compassion, it's no longer love. It's manipulation. And the longer you excuse it, the more it drains you. This kind of behavior chips away at your identity. It makes you believe that walking on eggshells is normal, that avoiding conflict is the same as keeping peace. But there is no peace in pretending. There is no safety in silence. You can't build a healthy connection on emotional blackmail. You deserve relationships where your empathy is not used against you, where your kindness isn't twisted into obligation, where your heart can be open without fear of being guilt tripped into submission. Real connection doesn't require you to shrink yourself emotionally just to keep someone else stable. It allows room for both people to feel, to be heard, to grow. If someone constantly refuses to take accountability, if every disagreement turns into a guilt trip, if your needs are always overshadowed by their drama, you have to ask yourself, what is this relationship costing you? You can care deeply and still set boundaries. You can love someone and still refuse to be manipulated. You can be supportive without being responsible for their healing. Emotional responsibility is a two-way street. If only one person is doing the work, it's not connection, it's control. And if someone is unwilling to own their part, to acknowledge their impact, then your compassion is being drained in vain. Stop confusing guilt with loyalty. Stop mistaking emotional exhaustion for love. Stop believing that sacrificing your peace is the price for keeping someone close. You don't need to feel guilty for protecting your energy. You don't need to feel ashamed for demanding emotional maturity. You are allowed to walk away from chaos, even if it comes disguised as someone in pain. Healing begins when you stop allowing emotional manipulation to disguise itself as love. When you start seeing clearly that compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You are not abandoning anyone by choosing clarity over confusion. You're reclaiming your emotional freedom. And in that space, you finally remember what peace feels like, what strength sounds like, what it means to stand tall, not as someone else's emotional crutch, but as your own anchor. There's a quiet form of disrespect that's easy to overlook, but deeply destructive. It's when someone constantly dismisses your boundaries. They act like your no is negotiable. They treat your discomfort like an inconvenience. They push pressure or guilt you into doing things that violate your peace and then make you feel bad for standing your ground. That's not just ignorance. It's control in disguise. When someone refuses to hear you, when you speak your truth, what they're really saying is your voice doesn't matter. And if you tolerate that long enough, you start believing it too. Boundaries are not selfish. They are not rude. They are not a threat to real connection. They are the foundation of it. A boundary is simply the line where your energy ends and someone else's begins. It protects your time, your mental health, your priorities. And when someone constantly crosses that line, even after you've made it clear, it's not just a misunderstanding. It's a choice. A choice to prioritize their comfort over your well-being. And the more you allow it, the more your inner voice gets quieter. You stop trusting yourself. You begin to feel unsafe in your own space, unsure in your own skin. You were not put here to be endlessly accommodating. You are not a doormat. You do not exist to please everyone at the cost of your own spirit. The people who truly love you will honor your boundaries because they respect your value. They don't see your limits as rejection. They see them as a form of truth. But those who are addicted to control will always push back. They'll call you cold, distant, too sensitive. They'll act hurt, confused, surprised. But don't fall for it. That reaction isn't about your boundary. It's about their loss of access to you. You are not responsible for how others respond to your truth. You are only responsible for protecting it. When you say no and someone gets angry, it reveals more about them than it ever will about you. Your limits are not up for debate. They are declarations of self-respect. And when you enforce them, you're not just building distance. You're building dignity. You have every right to protect your time. You have every right to guard your energy. You have every right to create space between you and the people who refuse to listen, because silence does not equal peace. And pleasing others at the expense of yourself is not kindness. It's self-erasure. Stand tall in your no. Stand firm in your limits. Stand proud in your ability to choose peace over pressure. Because every time you honor your boundaries, you're telling the world and yourself that you matter, that your needs are real, that your voice is valid, and that you are no longer available for anything that tries to break that truth. Not from strangers, not from friends, not even from family. Some people disguise manipulation as love. They twist your loyalty into obligation. They use your past together as leverage. They remind you of everything they've done for you, not to celebrate it, but to trap you in debt that was never supposed to exist. That's not care. That's emotional blackmail. And it's one of the most toxic patterns you can ever let linger in your life. Because once you allow love to be weaponized, you stop knowing what love truly is. Real love is not a deal. It does not come with hidden terms. It does not say, you owe me every time you choose your own path. It does not make you feel guilty for growing. It does not resent your independence. It does not ask you to shrink, stay silent, or sacrifice your values just to keep the peace. When someone constantly reminds you of what they've done, for you just to make you feel small, they're not supporting you. They're controlling you. This kind of manipulation can wear 1,000 masks. It sounds like, after everything I've done for you, or you wouldn't be where you are without me. It sounds like shame wrapped in sentiment. And the worst part is sometimes it comes from the people you've trusted the most. The ones you thought would protect you, not pressure you. But love is not a cage, and guilt is not proof of connection. If someone's way of holding on to you is by tearing down your confidence, you are not being loved. You are being used. You cannot live a free life if your choices are always filtered through someone else's expectations. You cannot walk your true path if every step requires permission. You cannot breathe fully if you are constantly choking on guilt that was never yours to carry. This is not how connection should feel. You were not born to be emotionally cornered by the people you love. You were not made to walk on eggshells to keep others from feeling insecure about your strength. Love is supposed to lift you. It's supposed to give you space to grow, even if that growth means outgrowing old patterns. Anyone who truly loves you will want to see you fly, not clip your wings just to keep you close. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your dreams. You don't owe anyone your emotional freedom, not even if they helped raise you or stood by you once. Loyalty has its place, but not at the cost of your soul. If someone can't love you without keeping score, then what they're offering isn't love. It's control with a smile, and you deserve better. You deserve relationships rooted in truth, not manipulation. You deserve support, not strategies. You deserve freedom, not fear. And once you see this clearly, you stop tolerating guilt as a currency. You stop trading your peace for approval. And you finally start living on your terms as you were always meant to. Silence can be a powerful force. But when it's used to punish, to control, to dismiss your worth, it becomes a silent war on your soul. The cold shoulder. The refusal to respond. The way they withdraw affection, attention, or acknowledgement the moment you do something they don't like. That's not conflict resolution. That's emotional abuse. And the longer you let it slide, the deeper it cuts into your self-worth. Because being ignored doesn't just hurt. It tells you that your voice, your presence, your feelings don't matter. And no one, not even family, should ever make you feel invisible. The silent treatment is not a moment of reflection. It's a form of power play. It's a way to make you chase, to make you question, to make you beg for the bare minimum. Attention, communication, connection. It's not about space. It's about dominance. It says, I control the conversation. I control the dynamic. I decide when you are worth responding to. That is emotional manipulation dressed up as stillness. And the damage it does is quiet but devastating. It rewires your mind to fear disconnection. It teaches you that love is conditional, that the moment you speak your truth, the moment you say no, the moment you draw a boundary, you might lose everything. So you start silencing yourself to avoid being silenced by them. You stop expressing how you feel just to avoid being abandoned. You shrink. You settle. You surrender your truth just to hold on to a connection that's already fractured. But real love doesn't hide behind silence. Real love leans in even when it's hard. You deserve communication that's honest, not weaponized. You deserve relationships that value clarity, not confusion. You deserve to be heard, not frozen out. When someone refuses to speak to you, not for healing, but for control, they're not protecting peace. They're protecting their ego. And no healthy connection is built on ego. It's built on mutual respect, on courage, on the ability to work through things together, not to punish each other with silence. When you tolerate the silent treatment, you teach your nervous system to expect absence in response to truth. You start believing that your needs are too much, that your feelings cause problems, that asking for clarity is dangerous. And this kind of emotional conditioning can scar deeply. But here's the truth. Anyone who truly loves you will never use silence as a sword. They will face the conversation. They will show up. Even when it's uncomfortable. You're allowed to expect communication. You're allowed to demand presence. You're allowed to walk away from anyone who thinks silence is an acceptable punishment. You are not hard to love. You are not too emotional. You are not wrong for wanting to be seen. Let them be silent if they choose. But you don't have to stay in the echo of their absence. You can rise above it. You can speak life back into your own heart. And that's how you win your freedom. By never letting silence steal your worth. When someone constantly downplays your pain, mocks your dreams, or makes you feel ridiculous for simply feeling, it's not just disrespect. It's a slow erosion of your identity. Sarcasm disguised as humor. Jokes that sting a little too deeply. Comments that feel like cuts, masked in smiles. When they say you're too sensitive. What they often mean is, I don't want to be held accountable for hurting you. This kind of emotional invalidation is not harmless. It's psychological poison. And you should never let anyone, not even family, teach you to doubt your own reality. You begin to feel crazy. Like maybe you are too much. Maybe your emotions are broken. Maybe your needs really are irrational. But they're not. Your need to be respected, to be taken seriously, to be treated with compassion. That is not a flaw. That is human. Emotional invalidation is one of the most subtle, yet devastating forms of abuse. It doesn't scream. It doesn't hit. It whispers that you're wrong again and again until you believe it. It shows up in conversations that feel like traps. You open up and they roll their eyes. You express frustration and they say, you're overreacting. You speak your truth and they twist your words into something ugly. This isn't communication. It's control. Because the more they get you to question yourself, the easier it is to manage you, to make you smaller, to keep you quiet. And this tactic works. Unless you recognize it, name it, and refuse to absorb it, you cannot grow in an environment that mocks your emotions. You cannot evolve when you're made to feel guilty for having feelings. Emotions are not the problem. Disrespect is. The ability to feel deeply is not weakness. It's wisdom. Your empathy is a gift, not a glitch. And anyone who belittles your depth is afraid of their own emptiness. So they try to shrink you because they're intimidated by what you see, what you sense, what you feel. But you don't have to shrink to make anyone else comfortable. You're not too much. You're not too emotional. You're not too complicated. You're just surrounded by people who don't know how to honor what's real. And you don't need to explain yourself to those who dismiss your truth. Your peace doesn't come from their understanding. It comes from your decision to honor yourself regardless of their reaction. You are allowed to walk away from conversations that make you feel small. You are allowed to disconnect from people who mock instead of support. You are allowed to demand emotional safety. And you are worthy of being seen in full, not just tolerated in fragments. Do not confuse comfort with care. Some people stay close just to stay in control. But true connection never comes at the cost of your dignity. Speak. Feel. Stand firm. You were not born to second. Guess yourself just to keep someone else from feeling uncomfortable. You were born to live in truth. And that truth deserves to be respected, not ridiculed. The moment you begin to realize that your peace is not up